meeting to order. It's 8:01. We don't yet have a quorum, but we're going to start, and we just can't take any board action until we have a quorum. So, we did have a roll call.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay. So we're going to move down to, first of all, we'll go to public comments. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to say anything? Hearing no public comments, we're going to actually move to the item E, which is the executive committees. We had talked last month about putting out a survey. I'm actually Survey Monkey. I don't know if you should have gotten it by now. I think I sent it out Monday, but there is a link that I sent to everybody's email. So if we could get that back to me by May 17th, which is the Wednesday before our next board meeting, that'll be when it's no longer live, and I'll be able to collect the data, and then you'll have in your packet before that meeting the results of that evaluation. So did you get that, buddy? Okay.
I've done it. It took less than 10 minutes. It really wasn't a difficult process.
Yeah, there was 34 questions that are multiple choice that make it pretty straightforward. And then the last two are like open comments where you can put in, your kind of like your thoughts on those two questions. So hopefully it's an easy process. And it will be anonymous. So basically, you'll see are the comments. There's an assigned number to everybody. So only I'll have the information. It'll say confidential, so everybody can feel free to make whatever comments they want, and you'll just see the comments as listed numbers. Okay, so moving on to committee reports. Does anybody? So this outreach committee. Has the outreach committee met yet?
That would be the one we talked about on Saturday, right, Jim? That we had. Is that the one we haven't set?
Right, we have not set a time yet. Excuse me. Business development did meet yesterday to review the submissions for the Optimized Main Street grant. Placemaking committee has not met, and event committee did meet once last month. One thing I probably will do is I will send out, or she'll make a note to do it this afternoon, send out information for the volunteer committee members or the non-board members who are on committees. I'll send out contact information to the board or the committee chairs so that you have their information. Some of them have started reaching out to me, just asking when they're going to start meeting back up. I think it would be good to at least have an initial meeting of each committee, just to kind of do introductions, just so everybody can get familiar with each other, just kind of go over roles and flow, and then just kind of have some initial conversations of each of those. So I'll send out those volunteer contacts after this meeting.
For the outreach committee, did we ever hear back from Jeff if he was willing to chair? I know at the last meeting we asked Bailey, and she was like, "Well, ask Jeff first, and if not, I'll do it." Have we heard from him?
Yes, he's willing to do it. Unfortunately, because of personal issues, he could not be here today. But yes, he was willing to do it. Awesome. And I was really impressed. I thought the business development meeting went really well. I was actually a little bit late, but it was well attended. So it's going to be a good committee, I think. Okay, so there was nothing else under committee reports. Moving on to other reports. Nothing for subcommittee business. Center for the Arts.
All right. On Friday, April 28th, from 5 to 8, Jim just gave you an invitation. That's the Lapeer Art Association hosting their 50th anniversary celebration reception. Everyone is invited. This is also their annual spring show where they take over the whole gallery. And they will have an alumni wall of art from members over the past 50 years. And some of those members are no longer with us, so that's going to be pretty cool to see. And there's a wonderful article in Sunday's County Press if you need to see that. Gallery classes offered in April. There were 2 sessions of hand-built pottery, one for children, one for adults. 2 sessions of Bob Ross-inspired oil painting class, watercolor painting class, and imagination and core classes, basket class, and a glass fusing class. Glass classes are still going well. In youth theater, auditions were held on April 13th for both of the youth summer theater shows, Rainbow Fish, which opens on June 30th, and A Wrinkle in Time, which opens on August 11th. We had 30 kids audition, Both shows are cast and rehearsals will start via Zoom in May. The theater classes are wrapping up. We just completed, I think it was beginning acting yesterday, and we have youth improv today, and then they'll be done. And we'll switch over to the plays. In the picks, April's been a difficult month. The shows were great, but the audiences were small. I reached out to other theaters, some in Michigan and some around the country, and some larger than ours. It's a national trend, unfortunately. One theater in Milwaukee had to cancel their last show this season, and they pushed it over to next season. The Dallas Theater Center is calling this trend 70 is the new 100, meaning a 70% full house is what we used to consider a 100% full house. I'm hoping that this is a blip and that things will get back to normal. The April shows that did do well were our smaller shows. The Pirate School, which is for kids 8 to 16, where they actually got to learn how to sword fight on stage, which was actually really, really cool. That class was capped at 20 and we had 21 kids. In the Silver Series show, which this month was GQ Jazz, this is our 2:30 on a Wednesday afternoon show. We had over 50 patrons, which is really good for that series. So the smaller shows are still holding in there. And we also had a wedding rental on April 8th, Sean and Rachel Campbell, and I believe they are still married. So, yep. There were 834 patrons visiting the Center for the Arts in the month of April, which is down a bit. I've also given you our quarterly report. This was approved by the Center for the Arts Board of Directors on April 11th at our full board meeting. And it is, as it will be until we get through this fiscal year, difficult to understand because of a grant check that we hadn't budgeted going through our system. So if you look at grant expenses, you'll see we're at 25,000, 50%. That's because that was a $25,000 check from the lighting project that went through and has, we've checked with the accountant. This is just how it's gonna be, and it's just gonna drive me nuts for the rest of the year. You'll also notice on grants income, we're at 258. That would be the grant going through. Otherwise, we are neck and neck, as we normally are with income and expenses. We operate on a cash basis, so if there's no money, there's no income, there's no expenses. I also gave you a status report. This was created, well, it started to be created for its grant writing season. But we also gave it to the city commission, their last meeting, I believe. And this gives you an idea overall of where the Center for the Arts is. And I'm proud to announce that I think we added a state this to how many other states, maybe not. We had somebody from Iowa come in this weekend, so that was pretty cool. But this gives you an overall idea of what's going on, our strategic plan, and the achievements we've made towards that strategic plan. And on the last page gives you some of the insights into our youth theater program. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
It's a great dashboard report. This is really, and I like the color. It really kind of.
It's not boring.
No, I don't know. It's easy to look at it. It's a great
It's
visual.
he's an art person, art people. I don't want it boring. Yes, yes, we have to be colorful.
All right. Any questions for Jill? All right, moving on to staff report and street program update.
Right, just a few things to touch base on. Good morning,
Save
gang.
the day. We now have a quorum.
This is what you call fashion.
Sorry.
But you're here. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So do you want to back up to a minute of the consent agenda?
I'll back up to the agenda, actually.
Okay,
Under B, is there a motion to approve the April 26th agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda, which includes the minutes for last month's meeting, as well as the bill listing that you see in front of you that was put at the table, as well as the balance sheet and the general ledger attached in your packet. Do you want to take those all together, or do you want to separate them? All right, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes all of them?
I move that we approve it altogether.
For support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving back down to staff report.
All right. So, again, just a few things to touch base on. It's not in the written report. Earlier this month, I had the opportunity to meet along with Kelly Hanner, who's the interim city manager. We met with Katie Hargrove from the MEDC's Community Assistance Team, Nate Scramling from MEDC's Redevelopment Ready Communities Team, and Josh Krushik from the Michigan Main Street Team. Just had a nice conversation kind of going over the different services that each of those programs has. Kind of making some introductions with some of the new people at the table, and then also talking about ways for those three programs to work together and to support one another. And then following the meeting, was able to do a nice downtown tour with the MEDC team as well, and get our photo taken in front of the new sign. We also got, happy to announce, that we got another Match on Main grant. This will be our 8th one. This is for Kin Thai, for the new Thai restaurant that is coming in to the downtown area. They'll use it for the kitchen build out, electrical and plumbing upgrades for their restaurant space. I have a phone call tomorrow with Michigan Main Street. This will be an initial pre-service call. This is for the asset mapping service that we'll be utilizing this year. This would be just to discuss the program, go over expectations, who should be involved, and just kind of go over, like I said, the initial conversation for the program. And then they would anticipate doing that as a 1 or 2 day service later this summer. And again, that will look at essentially our community assets, whether it's buildings, businesses, parks, recreational, etc., and how to utilize those to our advantage and time into our marketing of the downtown area. Other than that, I'm working on final implementation for our vibrancy grant from last year that we received. This is the $20,000 vibrancy grant for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. That will include the additional murals that are the recreations of the community paintings. Those have been photographed and sent over to Village Printing. One of those will be going on the side of Pass down here to kind of serve as like a welcome coming in. Got the welcome signs ordered for the planters for downtown, for the planters in front of where the Thai restaurant will be, and then also the planter down by Sherman-Williams. That'll update the 2 welcome signs that are there. So they'll have the newer branding on them, and they'll just be consistent, just welcome to historical here. Chess tables are ordered, and I'm working with Ryan to schedule delivery for those. And then our painted border for the social district, I'm working with Jeff at DPW to go over when we can get that in place and final details on that. So it's moving right along. Any questions?
On that specifically, or on any? How was Boston?
Boston was amazing. Yep, great time, lots of good information. I did touch base on some of my favorite sessions in the packet. I'm looking forward to kind of going over that stuff in more detail with the committees and kind of breaking it down as to what would be a good fit for looking at for delivery.
All right. Moving on to new business. We put election of a treasurer on here because, as you may know, we have 2 resignations actually that we received since last month. And one of those was Mike O'Brien, who was our treasurer. So we are looking for a volunteer to serve that role. It's pretty, I want to say, I actually was board treasurer. It's not really difficult. Something that's pretty easy to do. Kim is great to work with, so she does basically all the work.
Me and Jim.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know if there was anybody willing to serve that role, at least. You can think about it and get back to me, but we do need someone. So don't raise your hands all at one time. All right, for right now, we're going to move on to board vacancies. We have 3 because we have not still filled Dan Gerlach's vacancy. And then we obviously have 2 resignations from Tony and Mike. And so we have, fortunately, we actually have, and you have, well, I think 2 in front of you, and there were 2 in your board packet. So we have 4 applicants. Mindy Schwab, who is here with us today, is one of those, and actually she would serve the role of city resident because, as you recall, Ashley reported last meeting that she's no longer going to be in the downtown district. She's moving out of that area, not out of the city, but out of the downtown district. So we have Megan Gillingham, who was at our meeting, I think actually at our last 2 meetings, and she was unable to be here because of some heating issues. And then we have Elizabeth Moffett, who actually is the business owner of Grace Apparel, who's downtown. As I indicated, Mindy Schwab, who's also a downtown business owner of Cass, as well as would be a local resident. And then we have an application from Jeanette Osenkoski. So we have 3 vacancies we obviously like to fill.
Is there, Tony was our liaison from the city commission, correct? Does that position have to be like another city commissioner sits in, or is that just?
It's not a requirement under the bylaws because the mayor, this is my personal opinion, the mayor was always the person that, they're obviously on this board. Debbie's been very involved. But prior to that, the mayor necessarily wasn't at most of the meetings, so we always had a liaison. That's how I actually became on this board, because I was on the city commission and then it just continued my interest after I left the city commission. So it's not required under the bylaws, but I have talked to a couple of, actually to the mayor as well as another city commissioner about that. Like, are they going to want to?
Right, do they want to continue?
Do they want to
that?
continue
Right.
to have somebody on this? I've really not gotten a response. I don't know if Kim, you've heard that. So we could fill one of those vacancies, 2 or all 3. I guess that's the question I'm asking.
I mean, the
is-
recommendations, so if they want to change that and
Right.
do something different at a
Right.
city commission meeting, they can.
Yes. And so I talked to Debbie, and she was aware that we had these applications. She was excited that we had this interest on the DDA board. So if there are 3 people that actually 4, but there are 3 vacancies that we filled, they may be like, okay, that's great, we don't need to have a liaison. So if they don't approve it, if they only approve 2 and they say we want to have a liaison, then we'll deal with that next month.
Right.
So I guess it's what would you guys like to do?
I'll just pipe in for some of you, and Dan knows this, but the prior mayor, when she said he didn't attend many meetings, Bill got to a meeting maybe once every couple of years or something, so. And he had a chat.
Yeah.
Right.
He was dismissing the DDA.
Right.
You know, I would like to just see Debbie's been involved, and she knows what's going on. And she can relay that to the city commission if that's what they're interested in. So my feeling would be go with three people, and Debbie would be our city representative.
I think we're better to be at capacity considering we've had a lot of turnover recently, so I think we're better to be full if we can.
Okay, so Is there a motion for any particular three of these individuals?
I just have one question on Elizabeth. I can't remember why she dropped off the board before, and it's,
It was right at the beginning of COVID,
yeah,
and I think it's because there were a lot of crazy things going on for her at that time. And I think it was before she started Grace Apparel. I don't know, I think there was some personal things going on where those are not the case anymore. And I'm not trying to speak for her, but that's what I recall.
And that's what she indicated to me as well at the time when she stepped down before. It was just a matter of availability. She was getting ready to launch Grace Apparel at that time. We had COVID, so she had more time that she had to devote to her kids and to her family. She's kind of downsized her business. Her parents are helping with her kids, so she has the availability to come back.
She's been pretty involved in, it wasn't called outreach, but whatever it was called before, isn't she? She's been in a lot of the supplement
Promotion.
meetings, right?
She was
Yeah,
on
yeah.
promotion committee when she
Yeah,
was
so she's been involved, yeah.
I'd make a motion that we recommend Mindy Schwab, Elizabeth Monta, and Nathan Killingham.
Support.
Absolutely.
To me, it's the two people who were here to observe and, to actually have a see the faces and meet them, I think that's important. And then Elizabeth, having had a little bit of experience and she's been involved with the subcommittee, so that was the three I was going to recommend.
Okay, so it's been moved that those particular three, will be recommended that the city commission be appointed to the board. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thanks, welcome.
You're welcome. All right, moving on to youth committee. I think we talked last month about two local youth that actually were interested in having this liaison committee.
Yeah, so we've got two youth already who are very strongly interested in this. And then Gwen Stoneberg, who used to run So Crazy in the downtown area, she's been interested in helping to organize this for a while. So we've had a few initial meetings to kind of brainstorm, talk about ways to get the youth engaged. They've sent out some surveys to their classmates to kind of build interest and kind of look at what their areas of concerns are, their areas of interests are, and they're collecting feedback there. And they just seem kind of really passionate. And I think this is an opportunity to kind of help with youth engagement, whether it's talking about like public places downtown, what we can do to make our downtown more vibrant, just how to see more youth involvement in the downtown area at events, or even just shopping down here or spending their time down here. And they've got a lot of good things to say. The nice thing about this being a committee that's focused on the downtown is you're not tied to the same stipulations as like the City Youth Commission would be. And I think this could also work in tandem with the city's youth commission as well, and they can support each other. But the nice thing would be that we were looking at doing this if you are a youth, if you are interested in the downtown, then you've got a voice at the table. Whether you're a school student, Belmont school student, North Branch, you've got an opportunity to be involved. And as we talked about before, like Lapeer is really the downtown for the whole county. There are other great downtowns here, but this is the largest and the main one down here. And it's kind of interesting. So one of the two students that we've been meeting with, Emma, who used to work here in downtown here, she is now working in Clarkston. And the other day I got a phone call from Jerry Detloff, who is the retired director of the Michigan Downtown Association. He was having lunch with Bob Donahue, who founded the Michigan Downtown Association over 40 years ago. And said, James, I'm in Clarkston, we are having lunch, and our waitress cannot stop talking about Lapeer. And we asked her how she knew about Lapeer, and she said she's been working to help try to get a volunteer group together, and they really need to come and visit. And So they're like, well, do you know Jim Hall? And she's like, that's who we're working with. And so they called me up, and then I got a great selfie a few minutes later. So that's how excited they are. Is she's working in Clarkson, and she's already talking about our downtown area, so they can also serve as great ambassadors for our community as well. Some requirements that we've talked about is, Lapeer County is preferred, but if there's somebody from Genesee County, Davidson, Burton, et cetera, that maybe they grew up in the Lapeer area, they could be welcome to have input on the committee. Age range, we'd be looking at 16 to 21, essentially old enough to drive, get themselves to and from meetings, and really just have a strong interest in the downtown area.
Are you looking for any board members to be more involved in it as well?
It wouldn't hurt to have, one board member. But really the idea is to let the kids have the voice.
Right.
They identify what the projects are. They look at planning. They look at funding. They really kind of spearhead the whole process. But having a board member there and then with a liaison like Gwen, just to kind of help answer questions and help keep them on track when necessary. But really they're the ones steering the conversation.
I would be interested in that. In my last job, I worked with youth, and one of the things I did was kind of giving them that project management and letting them make the decisions while when necessary, maybe going, okay, but consider this, because not saying, no, that's a bad idea, but okay, but have you thought about this, so that then they're talking about it and, they're still having that agency. So if you need someone, I would be interested in volunteering.
Like a mentor.
Or an advisor, or whatever you want to call it, yeah.
So what we'd be looking for this today would be a motion to officially form a youth committee of Lapeer Main Street. It sounds like they would want to come up, like, the technical name could be the Youth Committee of Lapeer Main Street, but they're going to want to come up with
A jazzy name.
to call themselves.
Okay, is there a motion? If we think this is a good idea? So is there a motion to approve a youth committee for the
You look so
Main Street?
skeptical. Why do you look so skeptical?
This is my brain, this is my brain thinking, which is a scary thing.
I move that we form a youth committee to be involved in the downtown development.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion?
Just mentioned that Jeff was really has been pushing this for years, and he was really kind of the impetus, I think, originally for this. So he's not here, but I'm sure you vote for it.
I agree. All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
I said aye.
Did you? I was listening just for you.
All right, moving on. This is another program, actually. I put this on here like twice in a row, and Jeff, unfortunately, has not been able to be here the last couple of months, but this was actually his idea, and I thought it was a really good one. He brought it up, I thought, in January. Maybe it was February, I don't know, but it was around the discussion of like wanting to be a part of these downtown businesses that are opening and being a part of welcoming them. And, there was some discussion of how we could coordinate with the chamber and be a part of those ribbon cutting ceremonies. But he had said, hey, why don't we do a program of our own? Why don't we have this ambassador program where we have a welcoming basket or something that we do special from the DDA, from the Main Street, that we go in and say, this is what, we're so happy you're here. We just want you to know that, we want you to be here. And I don't know, I guess that was something that Jeff had brought up, and I don't want to take away credit for him, but I keep putting it on here, and I don't want to do it when he's not here. But I think it would be a great idea for having our own way of welcoming new businesses. And we were talking, there's like 4 or 5 new downtown businesses coming in the next 3 or 4 months. So I think this would be a really nice way to show how dedicated we are to these businesses. So I don't know if you want to just put it on next month, or do you want to talk about this more?
We'll see exactly what exactly were we going to do?
He had mentioned that every time we have a new business, instead of worrying about whether we're going to be there for the ribbon cutting ceremony and somehow have a joint effort with the chamber, that maybe we change create a basket from maybe local downtown businesses, maybe we change it every time, but we basically go in, there would be like maybe 3 or 4 of us that would be, kind of like the ambassadors, and we rotate it. And we each take our turn of putting together this basket. Obviously, I don't know if we would do donations or whatever, but then taking it into the new business and welcome them, tell them what resources we have.
Get some pictures for promo
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, kind of do a good job with that. And again, that was his idea. And I thought it was a really good one. Like, we're so worried about making sure we're coordinating with the chamber. Let's have an ambassador program of our own. So again, I guess we really need to have Jeff here, but I hope we can. The worry I have is that we've got a bunch of these coming up, and I want to have something in place.
So if I can add to it, one of the sessions I touched base on in my packet, like I said, in on Boston, was called using social media influencers to create essentially champions for your downtown, and how to create local social media influencers. But the community that did this, well, the focus started as social media based. It turned into almost like an ambassador program where they were out at events, they had t-shirts, so they were identified, but they were there to essentially to answer questions about the downtown, direct people to the downtown. They were at ribbon cuttings, they were there to welcome new businesses. So there's a lot of overlap, I think, with what Jeff was talking about, which is a program like this too. So it might be a good program for both like the outreach committee and the business development committee to kind of work on together and really kind of develop it. And talking with Lee Young at Michigan Main Street, she said something like this: once we get it started, kind of look at the needs and the direction of the program, it could be a good option for private students in the future.
Well, I mean, do we want to wait for Jeff, or because we know we have all these businesses coming, do we want to at least put something forward that we want to start the process of doing an ambassador program? And we'll have to do, maybe a little further research on what exactly we want to do, but at least that we want to do it.
Well, right, and I think that we need to have maybe, the budget's coming up. We need to meet on that, the executive committee, between now and next month. We really kind of want to maybe create a line item budget for this type of program, so we have a little bit of money. So if we go out, get a basket, we have something we can utilize. So I don't know. I guess my question to Jim was, how soon you'd given me a list of different businesses. How soon are they going to be opening?
Hernandez is looking at opening in May. Kintai is looking at probably mid to the second half of July. The Whitney Creative Arts Studio is also hoping for mid-May as well. So some of these are pretty soon.
Yeah.
So Jeff would be happy if we did this,
I think
even though he's
so,
not
yeah.
here, because this is what he wanted, and we need to make sure in the minutes we indicate this was
Jeff's
he
idea.
spearheaded this. Yeah, he spearheaded this. So, but I do think it would be helpful to get this going this month because we've got so many businesses coming in soon. So if there's a motion to establish that program.
I will move to establish the ambassador.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, the certified local government presentation in May.
So I reached out to Alan Higgins at the State Historic Preservation Office to get some more information on certified local government. This is a local-based program that would have to be done in partnership with the city. I know, a little bit about the programs. They're really kind of structured off of what the local community wants to see. But really, if we want to move forward and be serious about historic designation, this is the path to get there. This would bring in potential grants to help cover the cost for the surveys, to help cover the cost for applying for designation, which without those, we're looking at anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 to bring in firm to help do that work for us. It also, beyond just the designation, it opens up access to preservation funds, for private businesses, for municipal governments. So it's really kind of a nice resource. And when it comes to the CLG program, again, it's really kind of designed to fit what the local community is. So a lot of it can be as strict or as basic as the community is looking for. But I did invite Alan Higgins to come in May to give just kind of a quick kind of 10, 15-minute talk about the program, answer questions on it, because he's going to be able to answer questions way better than I can and give a lot more information on it as well. And then at that time, after hearing from him and kind of looking at it, we can decide from there if we want to move forward with it and approach the city with a proposal, or if we decide maybe it's not a good fit for us all. But I think it's worth at least getting the information straight from the state on how that is structured. And this is not, it's spearheaded in Michigan by the State Historic Preservation Office, but it is nationally, it's run through the National Park Service.
Do we have any idea at this point if the city is on board with the idea of it, or are we just kind of gathering information at this
We're
point?
gathering information to
We've talked about this for years, literally, and we just haven't been able to move forward with it, so this would be a really good positive step.
Yeah.
At least to decide whether we want to do it or not. I don't know enough about it really to know if I'm in favor or not in favor.
Right.
But we've talked about this for at least 5 years.
Well, I look forward to that presentation then to get people understanding.
Okay. Next item is the MDA workshop, summer workshop.
Yep, so the Michigan Downtown Association Summer Workshop is coming up on June 9th. I did email out the information on this the other day. I'll be getting registered for it. We have it budgeted under our Main Street line item to attend the conference. But one of the things that we discussed was sending additional board members to this. I need to get registration in place for this. So I want to kind of put a final call out there to see who's interested, look at registration. I would also recommend, if the board agrees, sending Jill as well, our assistant. I think she could get a lot out of the individual sessions and workshops from this as well. Because the goal is not only to have her be her assistant, but also to help build her knowledge and make her a better employee as well with the DDA. Cost for registration for this conference is $150 per person, and it is in Alpena. It starts at 9 o'clock on the night, so I recommend a hotel for the night before. And the cost for the hotel is $170 plus taxes and fees. So, for example, if the DDA wanted to send both Jill and I, we're looking at about $700 for this session.
Do you think that it is at minimum $700 in value?
Yes. Yeah. These sessions are similar to the national conference, where it's a day of kind of congruent sessions. So at any given time, there's 2 or 3 sessions taking place. So for one person to get all that information, it can be challenging.
Right.
Yeah. And it's good info. The MDA kind of really stays in tune as to what issues are affecting Michigan in particular, and it's very downtown focused. So yeah, overall, I think it is definitely worth it.
Okay, what's the deadline to register for that?
I mean, we can register at the door, but
Okay. I just didn't know if you needed like feedback from the board as to whether they want to go.
I can add a registrant at any time. I would like to at least get Jill and I registered for it, just so that we can plan accordingly. So I'll be there on the 8th, either way, if we have a board meeting with the MDA on the 8th, but this will be for the conference in particular.
Great. Well, I guess if you're interested in going to this event, I'm going to be on a Caribbean cruise that week, so I will not be there.
This is the spring one or the summer one? Spring.
This is for the June 9th.
2nd.
June. Okay.
I thought it was June 2nd.
I think you're confusing May 9th and June 2nd, because that's why I got confused, because you said
Yeah,
the 8th to
June
9th, and then I was like,
June
wait, which one are we talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're
Okay.
correct. Yeah, the mileage rate for Main Street is May 9th.
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
Is there any sort of particular alignment of what's going to be presented there that would align with one of our subcommittees more than another?
I don't have the agenda right in front of me,
Okay.
but I think overall, most of the sessions would align with at least one of our committees.
Okay, so I guess I was just trying to think is there a certain committee that like having a representative from that would be gaining the most knowledge or something, but you're saying it's a pretty broad, okay.
So just to be clear, the MDA summer workshop is Friday, June 2nd in Alpena. And then the Michigan Main Street training is in Milan on May 9th.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody want to volunteer or indicate whether they can go to either of those sessions at this point?
So the deadline for the May 9th training, I need to confirm reservations for that by the 28th of this month. So that one is coming up. There's no cost to attend other than just travel to Milan. If you would like to get there the night before, the first day is for directors only, so you can't attend any of the workshops. But we are doing dinner at 6 o'clock. Cost is $20 a person. It'll be in their social district, outdoors, weather permitting. So it'll be nice. You're welcome to join us for dinner. But the actual workshop itself will be the night.
I did tell you I was going to be at the middle of
Yes.
the night. Okay.
So we won't have the new board members confirmed until when?
First, I thought it was they were going to try the first meeting in May, first commission meeting. Is that correct, Kim?
And I can tell them the agenda's due at noon today, so I'll get on it today.
My only concern is we got 3 new board members, and,
Right.
you know, this might be a good way to bring people up to speed.
Yeah.
Now, the training for the May 9th for Milan, for Michigan Main Street, that one, I did send out some videos to you. It's on business development, whether it's new building or existing buildings. It's very heavily encouraged to watch those if you would like to attend that session. I can resend those out. So,
And I'm going to draw, so if anybody wants to carpool, I can draw. But I'm just going for the day. I'm not going to come up before, so.
I definitely could not do May 9th, I have a week, possibly June.
So that was kind of thinking possibly June as well, just sort of seeing some stuff plays out.
All right, moving on to old business, Center for the Arts Programming Services Agreement. My understanding, is this the one, Kim, that went back to the city?
No, that's the rules agreement with the DDA, right?
yeah, this would be the program.
Yeah, this would be our
Okay.
renewal of that agreement, and,
Okay.
the Center for the Arts, you know, we talked in the executive committee about having the 2 executive committees meet, to go over this before, it's due, which is July 1st. Center for the Arts has requested you set up a meeting sometime towards the end of May.
Let's do July 1st, you said.
July 1st.
Do we want to propose dates, or are we waiting on them to propose dates, or are we?
I think we should propose, they just said, hey, let's do it at the end of May, and didn't have any particular dates.
Okay.
So,
We should try to get it on our June agenda for approval then for the July 1st payment. So
I would be available the 3rd week of May. I'm gone that last week of May.
I am moving the first part of May, but the end of May should be pretty good for me. Anytime that, especially that last week in May, would be good for me.
So, Tim, do you think they were talking an early morning meeting or like a lunch
They
meeting?
didn't
or
really say, but, you know, my guess was
afternoon?
you know, they meet at 5.
Oh, so like after work?
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, except for, I could do Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, the week of the 22nd. I'm sorry, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Monday would be the best day for me.
Of the 22nd, you said? I could do that, that works.
So Monday, the 5 o'clock?
Yeah, Jill, can you pass that around to everybody?
And where do they meet? Where are they meeting?
This would probably be
Just
the
add the
basement of the
center.
center.
In the past discussions, that's what they've done, just the basement of the CFA.
So then Jill, you'll email and let us know if that date works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, moving on to the vibrancy grant.
So just wanted to give everybody an update on the grant that we talked about last month, the vibrancy grant, which would be for the 23-24 fiscal year. I did not end up applying for this grant. One, the deadline was earlier than anticipated. So we're going to be able to bring it to the board to approve. But more so, once we started looking at the numbers, we just weren't getting there. So the Channel 12 program that we talked about was about 2,500. The marketing campaign through Develop Marketing was about 7,500. And then we talked about adding the walking tour plaques, the historic signage to the buildings. And that's a program that I started putting together a couple of years ago. So I had those numbers, bumped them up a little bit. In touch base with Village Printing, and that came in around 8,000. So in total, we're around 18,000. Probably expanded to about 20,000, but the grant is for 25 plus a 10% match. So really, to kind of get it where it needs to be, we're still relatively short. I think the best option would be for the placemaking committee to kind of spend some time exploring this, is this what we want, or does it fit maybe better for some of the other placemaking efforts we've identified under our goals and objectives under our strategy, and really kind of put a comprehensive plan together so that when the program comes around for next year, we can apply and submit a solid application. And maybe that is enhancing an ambassador program, or maybe it's tying into some placemaking efforts down here. But just for this year, they're not going to, they made it clear, if they're not going to award anything less than 25,000. So to just kind of add things on to kind of fill in the gap, I think it would be too complicated, too sporadic, and be difficult to execute. So not doing it this year, but I think with the 22-23 grant that we're finalizing, we'll see those efforts rolling out in the next couple months. We're still going to have that visual impact this year. So I think it's just we're planning now and getting ready for next year.
Okay, anything else? Any questions for Jim on that? All right, moving on to the amended bylaws. We talked about these last month. I had I sent these to Kim and put them in, had her put them in the packet. Basically, as indicated last month, the first section is really the change, which reflects what the statute says with the state. And then I changed it to reflect, like, instead of spelling out like the whole word, I put DDA and just reference at the beginning. I put executive director versus other things, and I changed it to make, I mean, there were just some, like, if you looked at these old bylaws, they were outdated. So it just kind of cleaned up a little bit of the clerical language, but otherwise they're exactly the same, except for the first paragraph. So are there any questions about the amended bylaws? Is there a motion to approve the bylaws?
I had a question real quick.
Sure.
I read through these real quick, but did we get any clarification on whether we had to have a specific number of directors or of board members versus a range? In other words, we talked about that. Should be no less than 8 and no more than 12 or something like that, as opposed to right now it says that we have to have a certain number.
Yeah, I mean, the statute does not require us to have a specific number. You can have a range, but I mean, there's no other I guess, source that I'm aware of that would tell us we have to have a specific number.
And I did check with the NDA, and I did check briefly with Dave Churchill. And NDA's responses, basically, it really comes down to local interpretation of the state law, and Dave was pretty much in agreement with that, as long as we are actively trying to fill the seats, but this would give us a little bit more flexibility.
And I'd say, I mean, if we're mirroring their exact language, I don't know how we could be misinterpreting it, you know what I mean?
Well, and I think this allows us that flexibility, so I think it's actually.
We're not out of
a good thing.
compliance right now.
We're not out of compliance, right,
In this, you know, in these terms.
right.
So would we be out of compliance if you have 13 members then?
It's not 13, it's 12, and then you have plus the mayor. The mayor is additional.
Okay. So we still have 13.
Or the CIO, whatever. I move that we approve the updated bylaws as presented.
Your support,
Come on, buddy.
supported by Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Does anyone ever say nay?
Yes, yes, they have.
You can say nay whenever you want.
That's what I said, you haven't said nay yet. All right, moving on to board member comments. Hearing none, there is no correspondence that I think we received.
I do have one thing, I'm not a board member, but I do have one thing.
What do you
Uh,
have to speak?
Yeah, I would just like to wish Kim a happy administrative professional today, and thank you for your help with the DDA.
Thank you. You're the backbone, Kim.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. I didn't realize that was a day today. I mean,
There's a day every day.
and I was secretary, so I.
Right.
She's not offended.
Everybody
You
run
still
out and
have
get
time.
cards.
Yeah, it's early, you're good.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, so there's no correspondence. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Buddy says nay, no. Do you need to sign the last minutes, Kim?
No, I don't have anything printed up yet, so behind.
That's all right. I just want to make sure I'm not doing it.
No, you're not.
So, I think that's fine.
Oh, so when do you want?
Oh, you just want to check it.
You know what,
Yeah.
Tim, can you stick around for just a minute?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the budget,
Yeah.
meeting about the budget. Ashley?
Yeah.
You wait.
Yeah.